Hello, everybody. I have stumbled upon something here that it's very interesting to me regarding Sandy Hook. I saw an interview with a lady, and as soon as I saw her, I thought that looks almost exactly like Nancy Lanza. Um, and so I had to look into her because she looks just so much like Nancy Lanza. That the Nancy Lanza pictures we were shown, she's on a boat, she's got her eyes closed, she's throwing her head back most of the time. Looks like she's on cocaine almost. And they're very high resolution pictures, so it definitely is a person. It's not these don't appear to be created images just digitally. So then everybody's wondering, you know, there's a few possibilities. A, this lady was real and then died. B, that this lady was somehow digitally created, or the images have been slightly photoshopped from somebody else. And then C, she is a real person who is still alive. Well, after watching one interview in particular, and I can't remember how I came came across it. I think I was still looking for triage stuff about the firefighters. I noticed Annie Haddad. And so I started digging into Annie Haddad's background a little bit more because she looks exactly like Nancy Lanza to me. The only difference are the teeth and a little bit of acne, but everybody knows acne is easy to either fake or just have and sometimes in your life, especially if you're stressed. So, and photoshopping teeth is really easy. It's super easy because you just take somebody else's teeth, a model of teeth, and you just use the clone stamp tool, stick them right in there. Okay, so what did I find when I looked into Annie Haddad's background? Well, the first thing that struck me as very interesting was what she actually said during this interview. She said she was there with a group of moms who met. Uh, Here, I'll just play the interview here.
Tonight was a gathering of mothers from the Newtown Brookfield East Moms Club. It's an organization in Newtown and Brookfield that gathers stay-at-home moms, and we give each other an outlet just to be together, to organize play dates, to do civic functions. And tonight, one of our former moms, whose kids have aged out and are in school now, sent an email around and thought that since we lost some of our children that were in the club, that we needed to gather and just be together and love each other. And tonight was just an outpouring of moms who love their kids.
We know.
So I immediately remembered that in the official story of Nancy Lanza that people knew her through a once monthly mom's night out meetup where they would play this dice game, and that was a couple of years ago at least, and but they were never invited to her house. But that's how people knew her, was they saw her at this once monthly mom's night out meetup, and they also saw her at the local bar every once in a while. They saw her at the grocery store, etc. Now, in a few years, adding a little bit of makeup and what have you, it's extremely possible that this Annie Haddad, who was at the same meetups, this was the same meetup. I know it was because this once monthly moms club meetup in this area, um, and so that's how they knew Nancy Lanza, quote unquote Nancy Lanza, who that wasn't actually her name. And so I look into this Newtown Brookfield East Moms Club just to see if the amount of meetups would be similar to the amount of meetups that we were told Nancy Lanza's club had, which was once monthly for a mom's night out. So, Moms Club of Newtown, Connecticut. Am I allowed to bring my children? Okay, yeah, we encourage mothers to allow fathers and other caregivers the opportunity to bond with children one night a month while they attend Mom's Night Out. Moms will usually meet for dinner, a movie, a pottery class, etc. A dice game, maybe. So naturally, my ears stick up in the air, and I'm thinking, "Whoa, it's pretty interesting little coincidences going on here." Um, the mom's night out thing. So let's keep digging into Ani Annie Haddad's background and see where she comes up with the Sandy Hook tragedy. Well, this is where it gets interesting, and this is where I started to really think that I was very much onto something because I started running into multiple spellings of her name and I started running into multiple versions of her name. And anybody who's looked into these false flag events knows that this is a tell. This always happens. Every single false flag event, you have these multiple spellings of people's names. Why do they do this? It is to throw off researchers who are looking into these people's backgrounds, and it's also to discourage researchers who think that they've hit a dead end because this is somebody else with a different spelling of the name. However, I don't give up that easily when I'm researching this stuff, and I have proven that Annie Haddad, as she was labeled in the AP videos, is the same as Anne Haddad, who is quoted in several news articles. And the reason I know it's the same person is they're both the same age, and Annie Haddad set up a donation page for her grandmother or mother, I can't remember. It was she died of leukemia or some cancer, and in that page she talks about losing her daughter's classroom was a crazy person came into her daughter's classroom. In this same donation page, notice how she is holding a son, a young son, and let's read what this says down here regarding. She says, a madman came into our daughter's school in Sandy Hook, Connecticut with the intent to do maximum damage, and he did. And in this article, well, I learned it earlier from public records, but she is married to a Peter. Who else was married to a Peter? Oh yeah, Nancy Lanza was married to Peter. Just a coincidence. Another one. Okay, so this Annie Haddad has a page set up, and there's another interesting thing in here. Guess what? Okay, special needs child. Oh, who else had a special needs child? Oh, that's right, Nancy Lanza. Both were teachers of special needs children and devoted moms. Teachers of. So then, it keeps going. Okay, so both attended a once nightly mom's night out. Both are married to Peter. Both have children with a special need and taught children with special needs. And both have a son. And okay, it doesn't stop there though. So then I learned that Annie Haddad, aka Anne Haddad, actually has more aliases. Actually, quite a few aliases, more than most normal people have. And we find that she's in this Facebook page, but she looks pretty different in the Facebook page than she did in the interview with the AP. But we still see the two children. She looks somewhat similar, but she actually looks very different in this picture. But this is the same person. There aren't that many Annie Haddads in the small town of Sandy Hook, Connecticut. That's for sure, especially with a son and a daughter. And this daughter, I feel sorry for these kids because they don't look very comfortable hanging around these guys. Anyway, Annie Sweeney Haddad is Annie Haddad, who is supposed to be Nancy Lanza, it appears. And Annie Sweeney Haddad worked as she got her background in, you guessed it, just like the last article said, she got it in special education. Special education means teaching people with special needs, such as autism. So this Annie Sweeney Haddad lives in Sandy Hook. And then I remembered reading an article that struck me as strange, which said it talked about a teacher who was in a classroom, but there was also a special needs teacher that was in that same classroom, but she was never actually named by name, even though everybody else seems to be named by name. Now, why wouldn't they want to mention who that other teacher's name is? Is she not as special as every other teacher in the school? Or do they need to conceal her actual identity because she is Annie Haddad hanging out in the classroom? And then I thought, you know what's funny is originally they kept saying the mother of the shooter was a teacher at the school. Huh. Is it possible that the original reports were actually talking about the very similar looking Annie Haddad, who was in fact a part-time, at least, teacher at the school and not only at Sandy Hook, but at St. Rose of Lima School? Oh, St. Rose of Lima School. Yeah, that's the school that kept coming up over and over and over again. It kind of in a parallel um, we saw the police running into St. Rose of Lima. We had bomb scares called in to St. Rose of Lima saying they were going to finish the job. And Adam Lanza happened to have attended St. Rose of Lima. Supposedly, Adam Lanza is actually Ryan Lanza. Attended St. Rose of Lima school. And guess what? Annie Haddad, aka, she's got another name too. She worked at St. Rose of Lima. The very weird thing about Mrs. Annie Haddad, Anne E. Haddad, notice how they use Annie and then Anne E. and then she's she's Anne E. Sweeney, and then she's also Anne P. Haddad and A. Haddad. But Anne E. Haddad, play on words, as in Annie, the other spelling, is also Anne E. Giorno, which was either her name before she got married or her name before she changed it. It's the same age, it's the same city, and she has all these other aliases. And this isn't the only name search engine that's turned up these exact same names over and over and over again. So she's got like 5 or 6 different names she's going by here. But the point is, that's to confuse us. If you look into this yourself, you'll realize that yes, her name was spelled Annie in the original AP broadcast, and then yes, her name was spelled Anne in the subsequent articles written about her. And then you'll realize that yes, her Facebook page with the same kids that are shown on the ANNIE donation page show up as Annie Sweeney Haddad. And notice how in the name aliases section here, there's no Annie S. Haddad. There's just so many aliases for this woman because her whole background is fake. And they needed to throw everybody off of her track because she worked in some capacity at St. Rose of Lima Elementary School, and very quite possibly, she worked in a substitute capacity at Sandy Hook Elementary School and was the unnamed special ed teacher at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Anne E. Giorno, Anne E. Haddad, Annie Sweeney Haddad, bogus piece of shit bitch character that's definitely Nancy Lanza, who the lady playing Nancy Lanza. There's too many coincidences here. Okay, the whole having a son, being a special needs teacher, that's both of them. We were told that Mrs. Lanza, which is a fictitious name, Annie Giorno is a special Annie Haddad is a special needs teacher. Nancy Lanza is a special needs teacher. Both women are married to a Peter. Both families have a St. Rose of Lima connection. Both women attended a monthly Mom's Night Out meeting. His mother was a teacher at the school was the initial slip up that they said over and over and over again. Well, actually a couple of times. And this woman, Annie Haddad, is a teacher of special needs children. It's just there's too many coincidences, and they both look exactly the same. So if everybody could help look into this a little bit, I'd really appreciate the help. This would, of course, explain a lot of the errors that were made in the initial story regarding Nancy Lanza. That they people say, oh, they put these errors out there because they want everybody to know that it's fake. No, they don't. They do these errors. These errors happen because they are lying, and you get caught in a lie, and things don't happen like you want them to, and there's always some sort of ungiven parameter that they can't account for, and that's how these errors show up. They want a perfect story. They want the American public to believe this stuff. You don't say she was a teacher at the school unless that was a part of the original script, and that this or that Sally Cox actually recognized her and assumed she was a teacher at the school because we're dealing with Annie Haddad. So anyway, um, the bomb scares called into St. Rose of Lima school saying they're going to finish the job. That was part of the script all along because I think, in actuality, St. Rose of Lima school was the intended target, and for some reason, at a very late point in time, they had to switch it to Sandy Hook school. That's kind of just my thinking at this point in time. And Annie Haddad is definitely the woman who was playing Nancy Lanza, in my humble opinion. And feel free to look into this a lot more. I hope everybody does, because I need help looking into this. And I really know that the more everybody looks into this Annie Haddad character, who, oh yeah, here's another thing. She lived less than a mile away from Mrs. Lanza, and